This is Frankie. She is a 5-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred mare. She is used for eventing. She has a pretty interesting story. She was malnourished at the track really severely. So she is on her road to good body condition and a good body score. So she's still gaining a little bit of muscle and weight, and in doing so, obviously, she's had some muscle soreness. She's had some trouble picking up her right lead and a bit of issue bending laterally to both sides. So I'm a one-woman show, so I'm going to be walking her up and down and jogging her up and down, and then I'll do a voiceover of what I see. So let's go this way, little girl. So as she's walking away here, I can see that there's a little bit decreased swing to the left with the pelvis. She's not really opening and swinging quite as freely to the left as she is to the right. As she starts to come back, you can see out that she does have a toe out progression angle. She does point a little outward, which also will make those scapulas a little bit more protruded, which can also be the issue with finding a saddle that fits properly. As she trots away, again, you can kind of see the same thing, a little bit lack of motion there on the left. And then no significant findings other than her goofy front feet on the way back in. We're going to see if we can jog back and forth here. So now as she trots across there, I don't see anything glaring, but one thing I do see is that she really holds her positioning in the base of her neck and tightens and hollows her back. So that could lead to some back soreness, especially if she's not being encouraged to stretch forward and down when riding. But I would anticipate to see some back soreness based on the fact that, like I said, she's holding quite a bit of tension and support through that back instead of through her core or other parts of her body. Okay, so now we're going to take a venture back here. To be able, maybe, all kinds of wonky here. But that was close. Stand up. Frankie. There you go. Good girl. Right there. Right there. All right. So I'm looking at right here. Her right foot is a tad bit forward, but she definitely looks high on the left. Definitely looks high. High pelvis on the left for sure. Shoulder-wise, her right. Well, she's also tilted a bit to the right. Could you stand? Even a little bit. There we go. All right, again, she's dropped her right hip, but her right shoulder definitely looks to be a bit more developed. And it protrudes a bit more than the left, which we saw a bit in her saddle fitting. So it definitely is a bit larger than the left, which is also interesting with racehorses. Typically their left shoulder is more developed because they run to the left. So interesting stuff. We'll see what else she's got. So we're going to test her hydration, and in doing so, we're going to just grab some skin here and let it go. It's kind of dark, I'm sorry. But there's a little bit of a ripple there, which means she's hydrated, could be more hydrated, which is pretty indicative of her. She has to get extra salt in order to be encouraged to drink. And then we're gonna do her capillary refill, which involves looking at her gums, which she's gonna love. So you're gonna pull up her lip and you push the spot until it's white, and then you let go and it comes pink again. Should be about 3 seconds. So capillary refill is good. First things first, we're gonna get her heart rate. All right, so she was at 35 beats per minute, which is normal. Now we're gonna check her respiration rate. You can do that by watching the chest or by watching the nostrils. Put another minute on the clock here. All right. Okay, so she was right at 16 breaths per minute, so you want her to be between 8 and 16. It's feeding time and there's a lot going on, so she's probably breathing a little extra harder than normal. So now we're gonna check for full body flexibility. So we're gonna take her out of the cross ties. We're first gonna check her atlas or her pole up here. I have cookies in my pocket. There you go. Girl. I know. There's cookies. I know. So you're gonna find the big wings on the atlas bone. And hers feel to be pretty in line. She just had a chiropractic adjustment last week. So those feel to be pretty in line. So then you can just test the pole. Pretty good. Little stiffer to that side. But for the most part, she's pretty limber there. So then we're gonna go and we're gonna check her cervical vertebrae. So you're just gonna make sure that you can press on each one. There's a little bit of movement, so she's pretty stuck right there. Yeah, that one feels a little stuck, doesn't it? So she's got two right there in the very center that feel just a little stiff. And she does have a little bit of issue bending, especially to the right, so that's probably gonna be a decent area. So now we're gonna check some lower limb flexibility of her back and the crossed eyes. Like I said, she's 5, so naturally very curious and semi-fidgety. And these crossed eyes are old and cold. Ooh. There we go. All right, so now we're gonna check her fetlock here, which has plenty of range. Check her knee, perfect. Check her shoulder here. No issues with glide. Check her C7. This is one of her favorites. We do this pretty regularly. No, you can't have it yet. No issue there. Good girl. So, with Frankie coming from sort of a tougher situation, she was at the track and was malnourished, and so she does have some general back soreness, especially when it comes to saddle fit, but she's actually feeling pretty good through here. So maybe we won't have as much today. Scooch. Go back through here, check hind fetlock. She's always been kind of funky about her back feet. Good there on motion. Gonna check her hock. Stiff a bit in the hock, but she is also pretty straight in the back. That's better there, she relaxed some. Stifle. Good on stifle movement. And good on the point of the hip. So she is pretty straight in the hocks, so I expect her to be a little bit stiffer back there. We kind of knew that with her breeding and everything, that she would be just a little stiffer that way. I'm gonna take this off here. Go to check this side. I know. Cervical here. So same deal, right there in that mid-cervical spine, she's just a bit stiff. They just don't bound quite as well as the others. In terms of reciprocal bounding, they don't move quite as well. So again, a pretty normal area of stiffness for her. Let's make sure you can still see me over here. All right, so now we're gonna check this lower limb for fetlock motion. Plenty of solid motion. Knee, good there. Shoulder. Perfect on the shoulder. And then C7. Solid on C7. A little bit more comfortable. She's a little uncomfortable on that other right C7, I think. So that left C7 was much more comfortable. Same deal going through her back. Actually feels pretty good. All right, so now we're checking the other hind leg. Let her relax a little bit. All right, Mom. All right, so fetlock motion there is fine. Same deal with the hop. She feels a little stiff, but then she relaxes and is fine there. Plenty of stifle motion, no issue. And plenty of hip motion. Good girl. other thing we're gonna check is her jaw. Yeah, nice and chewy. I know. So we're just gonna slide her jaw back and forth and check for glide. She's like, there's stuff going on. So she feels a little stuck going to the right, but not horrible. So now we're gonna check her TMJ. So she's not crazy about that when I palpate it. Let her chew. No clicking and no real audible sounds of any kind, but it does feel just a little gritty up in there. And then here, yeah, same deal. Not crazy about that. That feels pretty gross in there. But no clicking either. I'd still say that feels pretty stuck. So that would probably be the first place I would start, is to start with her TMJ and to work through that worker. I would imagine that her mandible's probably pretty sore too. So that would be the first place I would start, would be here. And then I would move into more pole, atlas, occiput. Yeah. Does that feel good? Back there. So I feel a bit of tightness, and she feels like I think her reactivity is less pain and kind of pleasure, like hurts so good type deal. So I would probably spend a little bit of time there as well, just because that is one of those points that really helps reset the nervous system. And so working there can kind of just promote overall relaxation throughout the whole body for the massage. So if she's not normally super tense, but that's a good place to start for her. All right, so now I'm gonna start on the rhomboideus here, and we're gonna start checking for some stress points. So like I said, with Frankie, for the most part, she's pretty fine up here. Really, when you get into brachiocephalicus is when she gets to be pretty tender. She's acting like she's not tender, it's just very tight. And she's also paying a lot of attention to whatever's going on out there. Yeah, I know. Yeah, so down at the bottom of brachiocephalicus, she's got just there's a stress point for sure. Right there in the bottom, kind of belly area of it. But it just feels a bit ropey and just a bit, like I said, tight. Yeah, so the omohyoid down here, the more I get into that, yeah, the more kind of uncomfortable she becomes. So again, I would spend probably a good amount of time here, really working into that. Sternomandibular feels fine. She seems to be fine about it. Trap. Ooh, there's one. But really just that one point. So right kind of there at the withers, right there where trapezius is, she's got a stress point right there that I would spend some time working out, but it doesn't feel like it's super hard or fibrous. It just feels like, yeah, like it's probably a saddle point. She's been, like I said, kind of hard to saddle fit, so I imagine she's still got a little bit of residual points left over there. All right, so now we're in a tricep. Her triceps are getting very well developed, if I do say so myself. Those all feel good. Pectoral. Gotta remember too, there's some pressure points in here in pectoral, so sometimes you get kind of a backup response. It's not actually a stress point, it's more of a pressure point. Oh, that feels pretty good, you know. Pectoral to me always feels a bit gritty down here on every horse, but without reactivity, I'm inclined not to spend very much time there. All right, so now you've got pretty good there. And your carpi radialis, I can't ever remember if it's flexor or extensor. I'm gonna say flexor because you've got your digital extensors back here. All that feels fine. She's pretty solid there. I'm gonna move the camera. I'm a one-woman show here. I'm gonna move the camera so hopefully you can see a little bit. Let's try that. Okay. So now, so we did trapezius, so now we've got longissimus dorsi here. Really kind of gritty in through there. Not a fan of that. I figured once I put a bit more pressure, we'd be seeing some reaction. So throughout her thoracolumbar fascia, she's pretty tender. The interesting thing about the thoracolumbar fascia is it ends up being a bit more tendon-like. So it's a bit more difficult to get versus fascia that you can, with compression turns into kind of a jelly fluidity. The thoracolumbar fascia has a bit of a harder time doing that. So I would spend probably a good portion of the time here. In additional to like manual techniques, I would probably do like some cupping and vibrocussing and try to just get that to really relax and release. Deep pectoral here, fine. Oh, you can't see that. Ah, that's my foot. Okay, deep pectoral here, no issues there. Twitching because we're wondering why in the world we're massaging our obliques, but no real actual pain response. Oh, there's a bit. All right, so it looks like we found some tender area here in the abdominal obliques. So that's kind of new for her actually. So probably spending a bit of time there. Like I said, she's been building a lot of muscle, doing a lot of gymnastics exercises and jumping, so it makes sense that her abs would be a little sore and obliques would be a little sore. All through there. All right, so now you've got your gluteals, you've got tensor fascia lata, you've got biceps femoris, kind of all entwined here together. I realize you can't see her head, but I promise I'll tell you if there's a reaction. So she gets, yeah, right in there. So I'd say that's more biceps fem. Maybe a little bit of tensor fascia lata, kind of where they would meet. But that's got a stress point in there for sure. And it's tender. I can feel it kind of, my fingers kind of roll over that spot. So I'd spend some time there. Nothing here on the digital extensors. Nah, nothing there. Gastroc, fine. Then you got semimembranosus and semitendinosus. No reaction there. So I'd say probably that puppy is a good spot. Also, if our hock is a bit stiff on this side, that'll lead to a bit of soreness here. And then the compensation, obviously, in her low back would do it too. All right, to the other side we go. I'm trying to make it to see a bit more of her head here. Frankie, can you back up? So same deal. I would start again at the pole and work that first. A bit dirtier on this side. So rhomboideus here. Oh, that's a stress point there. Yeah, there's a release, even without doing much. So there's a good stress point that my fingers are on right there. Yeah, so actually this left side feels a bit, yeah, not like she's liking it. There's another good release. So I would spend a good time here. Seems like that would probably work out pretty quickly. Just to go ahead and hit there. Brachiosphalicus. Yeah, she's got some, again, stuff more deep down here, more in the muscle belly. Yeah. I don't know if you can see. Can't see her head. I'm sorry, apologies for so many camera moves. Like I said, one woman show. So deep down in here, right, like I said, right here in the muscle belly of Brachiosphalicus. There's some spots I would definitely work in. Some stress points, definitely some tightness. Yeah, and then her omohyoid too. So all kind of through there. Whew, this left side is way more reactive than I thought it was gonna be. Hey Franks, can you pay attention? All right, so that would probably take up a good chunk of time working through all of that. All right, then you've got pectoral here. Pec feels fine. All through there feels fine. Tricep. A pretty big muscle band there, but non-reactive. Non-reactive on the lower leg. Trap. Yeah, she's got that same, sorry, you lost me again, that same kind of spot in the trapezius there as she does on the, there we go, now you can see kind of full body. On the other side, which like I said, saddle fit is gonna be a lot of her issue. As she's building muscle, you know, her shape is constantly changing, so we're constantly changing saddle fit for her, but that is gonna be a stress point for sure. So I'd spend some time there in the trapezius. All right, and actually the low back on this side is better than the right. She's got a little bit right here in this longissimus dorsi. Yeah, and a bit there too. Her sacrum is normally a little bit rotated to the right, which can cause some of this low back soreness. Yeah, so there's definitely, again, some spots back through here. Straighten the hocks, lots of gymnastic jumping exercises, building generalized muscle. So through that thoracolumbar fascia, you're gonna have some stress points in through there. So deep pectorals here. No issue there where the girth goes. She actually has a pretty shallow girth canal. So we've had to do some specialized girthing to make sure that she is comfortable. But she seems to be fine, no soreness there. Now we've got the external obliques. So same kind of maybe curiosity about what I'm palpating, but definitely not the same reactivity as on the right. Not there, like I said, there's a flinch or two, but I think it's more almost like a fly reactivity than it is pain. So then I'd move on to some glutes. I know, you're being good, Frankie. Pretty non-reactive on this side. I think if I dig, I can get to some tender tissue in through here, and probably find some deep stress points, but superficially with this pressure, there's very little and nothing's usually reactive on. All fine through membranosus and tendinosus. Gastroc here, fine, no issue. All good there.